Awesome. So we're live and we're live
Got it.
with Alex. Alex, how are you doing, man?
Doing well. It's a good
Th-
day today.
Thanks for taking the time with us. So, Alex, you are a recent alumni. Do you recall what class you enrolled in? What month you enrolled in?
It was the April
April.
April
Okay, great.
cohort.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so very recent.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
but you landed, and so your cohort isn't over.
Not exactly.
So I
No.
shouldn't say alumni, but you've landed employment, right? You landed in office. What was
Yes.
the company?
Yes. Angi was
Wow.
used to be called Angie's List, but
That's so cool.
a little bit of rebranding.
That is so cool. All right, so look, I got a couple questions for you that I thought maybe
Cool.
folks would be interested in. And I wanted to start in the beginning.
Uh-huh.
So when you heard about Elevate, I'm like super curious, because in the day we live in, you can find content anywhere.
Hmm.
So what kind of once you start having these admissions conversations, etc., what got you excited to engage and maybe stick with Elevate rather than like pursuing some other content elsewhere?
Yeah, there's a few like career focused programs I was looking into. And I mean, great on Elevate, like your guys' communication is just, so fast in sync. So, I had some other meetings lined up, but like Elevate was like the first ones in the door to be like, hey, like let's hop on a call. And
Wow.
I don't know, this is kind of funny to say, but like just the name and the logo, um, you guys picked the right stuff because I was like, there's a, with any brand, it's like,
Yeah.
there's something cool about it. So
Yeah.
I wanted to, it piqued my interest. I wanted to learn more.
And then you jumped in. We're now like 7, 8 weeks into your
Hmm.
cohort.
Hmm.
Like, what can you talk? Can you speak a little bit about the hard skills from the curriculum that, maybe you learned, some maybe that were challenging to develop? Like, what stood out for you?
There's definitely a learning curve when it comes to like the customer relationship management software. That's such a mouthful right there,
Yep.
just to say, but the CRM, it's it was confusing at first, not ever having any experience with it.
Yeah.
And then, so just for example, like in Elevate we were learning how to use HubSpot.
Right.
However, there's all these different apps that also go along with HubSpot. So there's a learning curve in, creating like, the correct style of like Excel lists that'll go into, HubSpot and Outplay. And, there's a few other ones I could name off. But I mean, there's a learning curve there because, you're sending out messages to people or your team members. And if you do it wrong, then, the whole train goes off the rails. So it was definitely a learning curve, but I'm confident, with those softwares now. And
Yeah. Isn't that kind of crazy? You think of these conversations we have on at the top of the funnel in admissions, and we're talking about a career in technology sales. And so you think
mhm.
sales, that's just this person to person. But there's this whole element of, well, if you're not a native in some of the technology, then I almost can't even take you seriously to be an employee.
Yeah, and I had an interview like a few weeks before I got into Elevate, and I thought it went well. However, I just got ghosted. It was just, and I was just like, oh man, I guess it didn't go well.
Yep.
However, now looking back at that interview is like, oh well, yeah, I didn't know a lot of just like the base knowledge that
Mm,
you need because with the learning curve and the CRM is just one example
right.
of like the learning curve. So like the base knowledge to get into technology, and it's understandable from a company's perspective
Right.
of to bring someone on and like bring them up to speed. There's no guarantee that what that's going to do. Is that going to create errors,
Yeah.
etc. So it makes sense to me now, like getting in front of employers, to be able to say like, no, I already understand this. Like, let's get the ball rolling.
That seems to me like it kind of brings out the confidence that you have because you've been trained on this, you've practiced, you've been in scenarios where you've made cold. You were just telling me today how you make cold calls. And
Yeah. Yeah.
now when you are in these interviews or where you were in this interview and securing, it's almost like you could speak from a position of authority.
Mm. Yeah. I think authority and confidence, just being able to know that I am saying like the right things, that this industry or like this, employer needs to hear from me, instead of,
Mhm.
I feel like my mindset in the past was definitely like, oh, well, they're interviewing me, so I'm just going to let them, lay the tracks.
Right.
However, with that base knowledge, now it can be like, well, I already know this, so can I ask you a question about, your CRM software, how your company culture, all those good things.
Right. So you're almost like an equal, right? You're sitting at
Yeah.
the
Oh,
table,
definitely.
working
Definitely felt more
together.
equal because
Yeah.
you're bringing something to the table instead of just kind of sitting back and being like, yeah, okay, let me tell you about my college experience. Or, oh, yeah, let me tell you about, when I was doing door to door sales in high school.
Do you think that your interviewers felt and saw that when they were interviewing you? Like, do you think that they recognized that the person that they were speaking of, and it could be Elevate, but it could be obviously Elevate plus you, uh,
Hmm.
that it was someone that like they didn't see you as just being this green candidate?
It's funny you bring up the word green because that was like when I was just like talking to mentors
Yeah.
before getting into Elevate. Um, it was very friendly, but they were just like, well, you're really green right now, so we can't, like, I have a job that I could
Yeah.
offer you, but you're just too green. And I
Green.
think
Yeah.
a lot of that comes from not knowing just kind of like the base language,
Mm.
communication, and how to have, professional conversations. Like, I like to say virtually,
Yep.
because it was definitely a little bit scary at first to be like, wow, like I'm entering this virtual world, because before it's like all my work was, in person. So it's like to be able to be confident and comfortable, in this new type of space, like
Yeah.
that was definitely a huge learning curve that I now feel confident in.
You did. So you're gonna do so you are doing well, you're gonna do so well if you just kind of keep, and I think it's just the application, right? Because you are right,
Mhm.
it's so scary, especially for new students coming in, any new student coming in, because you've got this 10-week experience and along the way you're kind of pushed into this scenario. But then you end up having to be in that scenario and it's like you're making the cold call or you're in the interview and now this is your shot to be looked at as an equal and to be hired as an equal and get the
Yeah.
salary of an
Yeah.
equal, right? And so it's like a huge overwhelm. But like this goes into my final question for you.
Okay.
How would you translate that into your experience and success into advice or tips or so that you would share with new students?
There's a lot I could say,
Yeah.
like let's get pumped.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, I think at the end of the day, like a good example, like we always use, like when cold calling, is, after getting like three voicemails, or like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, there's a disconnected number. It's like being excited to hear the other end, like pick up the phone. And that's what like this opportunity feels like.
Mm,
It's like it feels like Elevate is picking up the phone, and now I'm excited to like start engaging, start talking, because at the end of the day, like I really enjoy talking with people, and
yeah.
that was another reason why I joined Elevate. And kind of just those, like, a lot of free programs where it's like you're just getting a set of tools
Videos. Yeah,
of
exactly.
videos, but
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm not engaging with someone,
Yeah.
so a lot of I've heard so many stories, and along with your story, Norman,
Yeah.
but like all those stories combined with, success of being like, well, I was here, before I joined Elevate, and now, with, a new job position, or, new experiences, I'm all the way over here now. And that was really exciting to hear all those stories, and geez, it's only been like a month and some change, and I
I
definitely,
don't
you know,
know.
I feel like, you know,
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
moved,
yeah, exactly.
mentally. So it's I think, the only piece of real advice I have is like, be excited, come excited, and just wait for that first hello, and then it's game time.
And it's game time. I love it. And it's game time. I think that might be the title of this video. And it's game time. All right, man. I'm gonna stop the recording here. This is so great to chat with you again, Alex. Thanks so much.
Sweet, thanks, Norman.